Hello, my name is James. I'm a portrait photographer from Portsmouth in the UK. You've probably not heard of me, and I welcome you to the latest video on the Portrait of a Wrestler YouTube channel. Joining me is Jaxon Stone from Dallas, Texas. How are you, Jaxon?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
We're going to go straight into it today. You work in mental health. Talk to us about your background in mental health.
I've been in the field for the last couple of years. It's become really the most important part of my life. But I own and operate a mental health nonprofit called You Are Loved, and I'm a certified life coach, mental performance coach. Yeah, I like talking about mental health, and I think it's the most important thing in the world.
You mentioned there that you believe that the mental health side of things is the most important thing to train. You say it's the most important thing. Can you just elaborate on that just a little bit, just with your experience and your backgrounding in mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think when people hear mental health, they immediately flip to like sadness, depression, all that stuff, right? Which is totally valid and real, right? But mental health is with everyone. Every single person on planet Earth has mental health, right? It's how we think, we feel, and we act. And it encompasses our everyday life. It encompasses our relationships, how we deal with heartbreak, how we deal with rejection, how we deal with success, all of that, right? And on top of that, there's more severe forms of mental health conditions, right? Depression, bipolar disorder, OCD, schizophrenia, severe anxiety, right? And those need a little bit more help and treatment and care. But everyone, no matter who you are, deals with mental health. We all have bad days, we have good days, and we have to handle that. And then on a different side of mental health, there's mental health or mental performance as creatives or as athletes or as people who want to reach like a peak performance. And that's where you have to start training the mental skills, right? It's not enough just to be aware that you have a brain and that it can help you or hinder your performance. You have to actually sit down and train it. And the hard part about it is it's invisible, right? If I am a baseball player and I go work on my swing for 2 years, I can see and feel that I'm getting better. My average goes up. I'm getting more playing time. These are tangible things that I can grab and hold on to and be like, okay, my hard work is paying off. With the mental performance side, with the mental skills training, it's a bit harder, right? How do I know I'm getting more confident? Am I being more optimistic, or I'm more calm under pressure, or I'm able to let doubt flow out of my head a bit more? So it's hard to see, but you can see if the things in your life just start to slowly get better, right? You're just stitching these things together more often. You're being able to be in the present moment more often, because that's where all the good stuff happens, right? You're able to create more. You're able to have a work-life balance. Your outside friendships from work are being fulfilled because you know how to balance yourself. And that's where the mental skills and the mental training comes into play. So all those, mental health conditions, mental health, and then mental performance is all different, but they're all kind of in the same realm, right? We all should be training those things on a daily basis.
How is mental health linked to creativity?
They're one and one, right? If I'm not a creative, I'm an accountant, right? One of the ways that we help our mental health is to be creative, right? It's to journal, it's to write, it's to read something, it's to make something, right? That creative process is supposed to help our mental health if I'm not in a creative field. So then being in a creative field, it's even a bit more difficult. So now I don't have that outlet really to help my mental health, because it's kind of come my job. And so now it's a bit more stressful. And so now maybe it not be as fun. And so how do we keep it fun? How do we keep it why I wanted to do this when I started growing up? Why is this creative field something that I feel so much passion for? And if our purpose, right, if our purpose is bigger than like the pain of what we feel, we're always going to keep going, always. So what's your purpose? What's your purpose? Why did you get into the creative field? Like, what's the meaning behind it? Like for me, I can talk about this stuff all day because my purpose is, I feel like it's like, so important to me. And it's right in the middle of my heart, and so I feel it every day. No matter if I have a good day or a bad day, I still feel like I can talk about this because it's what I want to do. It empowers me, and I know it can empower some other people to feel the same way.
I've approached you because we met through the wrestling scene. So you're a performer as well. You work in sort of the performance and the creative arts, I would suggest. And I wanted just to reach out to you because as an expert in mental health, I just wanted to discuss some things that people working in the creative industries can do to really look after their mental health after it's going to be very much a tough year coming up to in the next week or so, with the pandemic, global pandemic, lack of travel, restrictions everywhere, restrictions on work as well as sort of social activities. And I asked you very kindly, and you did this, was to put together 7 things that people in the creative industries can do to look after their mental health during specifically this tough time, which you've kindly agreed to do for me. Should we jump straight into it?
Okay. So I have point number 1 being redefine what failure and success means to you. So in a time like this, I think it's important to understand that if you're just trying, that's not failing, right? You're trying something new. You're trying to be creative in a time where there's very limited space for you to work or meet people. A creative career involves a lot of risk, and so you have to redefine what success and failure means to you. When I was first joining wrestling, I thought success was having my very first professional wrestling match, right? And that was success to me. And then everything after that was just kind of the golden nuggets on top. So I think it's important in a time like this, as creatives, to understand what failure and success means to you. We're going to have to find new ways to get our content out there or to get our work out there. Maybe it's direct to consumer. Maybe it's teaching a photography class online. There's different ways to implement your skill and allow people to hear your voice through different methods. So I think you have to kind of look into that and redefine what it means to you.
Is this a case of adapting for the environment around you, adapting for change? Is that what that's sort of leading into?
Yes, I think it's important. And again, this doesn't have to happen like when the pandemic hit, right? It doesn't have to happen a week later, right? You got to give your body and your mind some time to adjust, right? Give yourself time to grieve that you lost your job, or your job is being tweaked or changed a little bit, or you have to take care of your family, your kids a little more, and your priorities change, right? So once you kind of understand what's going on fully in your life, well, not fully because still things are a bit uncertain with what's going to happen, but then you kind of adapt and figure out what steps you need to take and redefine that whole process for you. And that falls right into the next point, which is managing your expectations. We can be given, I live in the US, so we get a lot of news that may not be true all the time, right? So we want to manage those expectations, right? Some people say we're going to open up fully, and then a week later we close down again. So you got to manage those expectations and keep them at a level that allows you to stay, somewhat optimistic about the future, along with managing expectations about goal setting. And a lot of stuff that we set as goals is outcome based, and a lot of outcome based goals are out of our control. They're completely out of our control. So if we don't achieve those, it's really not our fault, but we feel like it is, even though it was out of our control. So setting goals that are 100% in our control and managing those expectations along the way. Because as this last year has showed us, there's going to be pivots and dips along the way that we don't really know are happening. And so we want to be able to try to manage those as best as we can.
With regards to managing expectations, one of the most important things for that, and with regards to goal setting as well, is to make things compatible. And by setting goals that aren't compatible, almost sets you up for failure. Would that be right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's right on the same. It's right on the same vein. You want to set goals that are in line with your vision, that are in line with your philosophy. And so that you're just taking those right steps, and then every day your actions feel natural because they're all filtered through that vision and that philosophy. And so I think that's right.
Wonderful. Okay, point number 3.
So point number 3 is to accept doubt as part of the process. No matter what creative field you're in, you're going to doubt yourself. Am I good enough? Is this good enough? Is that as good as someone else's? You got to accept that doubt and still move forward with it, right? No one who's done anything amazing or great in life has done it in the absence of fear. They've done it despite it, right? They've done it with that fear. And so you got to just accept that doubt is going to be part of your creative journey and move forward with it.
You say quite a short point, but I think we could probably dig into this a little bit. Where I work in the photography industry, a lot of people go for awards, go for qualifications, go to shoot different projects or to learn a new skill. And sometimes the pushback that I often get from that is that people are too afraid. There's a fear of failure. I always think failure is like one step along the way to the learning process, but I've had to embrace failure to allow that to happen, really. You say accepting doubt as part of the process. If people are still struggling with that, how best would you advise people use their mindset to accept doubt as part of the process?
I think it comes with training confidence, right? Confidence is not like a born skill. Like some people sure are born a little bit more confident than others, right? But confidence is a trainable skill. And the only way that you can train confidence is the way that you talk to yourself. And it's not like you say these statements to yourself that are just like totally untrue, like I'm the best ever at this, right? That might not be true, right? You want to say things that you fully believe. They're epic thoughts, right? I am good at photography. People enjoy my work. Or I'm a good pro wrestler. Like things that you actually believe because they're backed up by the work that you've previously done in your life. So confidence is, yes, based on past success, but it's really, really based on your self-talk and how you talk to yourself. Because you can be in 3 states of mind, right? You can be in a negative mind, you can be in a positive mind, and you can be in a no mind. No mind is where we want to be. We're most creative. It's that flow state, right? Where everything's just coming to us, right? But the only way to get there is to be in the positive mind more often. Then you kind of just slip into that no mind. But when we're negative mind, it's like, I don't know if I could do this. I'm not good enough. Does anyone care about my work, right? And to way to stop those things, you have to be aware of those thoughts. And then you got to ask yourself, is this real? Do I really believe this? And then you're like, oh no, my work is in here. My work is on this, whatever. And then you go into, here are the positive thoughts or the positive mind. And then you just kind of slip into that no mind. So that's how you train doubt. But doubt is still going to creep in, right? For the best in the world, right? For the people who are at the tip of the arrow, right? They still have doubt, but they have trained confidence and they've trained their mental skills to allow them to kind of really hone that in and sneak past it into positive thoughts.
And this is where mental health is very, very similar, as it was described to me. It's very, very similar to physical health. So if you were to ask, someone who's 8 stone and change and never hit a gym before in their life to lift up a 500-pound barbell, they're not going to be doing it because they haven't trained their body to do it. And it's similar in mental health, isn't it? In terms of like you would say, "No, just get over it," or just get over doubt. But you haven't. You may not have trained your mind, your mental side of things, to actually get over doubt, and it's a training process to get there.
Absolutely, 100%. There's this guy named Michael Gervais. He's a sports psychologist, and he says that we can train 3 things, only 3 things. We can train our body, we can train our craft, and we can train our mind. And most people, we don't train our mind. We train our body, we train our craft, but we let the mind just be happenstance, right? And if you don't, then you're going to allow some of these thoughts to kind of creep in, but you have to cultivate these mental skills. And it's hard work, right? It's hard work. You didn't just become good at photography. You didn't just become good at wrestling or good at running or walking, right? When you were a baby, when you started walking, you fell down all the time. But you didn't know any better, so you just kept getting back up, and now you walk without even thinking about it, right? And that's the same way you can be with these mental skills, but you have to make it a priority, and you have to really be aware about it and think about it on a consistent basis. Because it's really, these mental skills are what is going to enhance you in your life, whether you're just trying to have more fulfilled relationships or you're trying to be the best photographer in the world. Like, this is what's going to help you get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's move it on now to point number 4.
Point number 4 is put in work boundaries. So we hear boundaries all the time in our lives. I think it's important to put those in work as well. And especially in a creative career, it can be unhealthy at times, and I think it can be beneficial at times, but there's an acceptance with a lot of unpaid overtime. We got to really put in some boundaries about your whole life, like how much time you want to spend with your friends and family, how much time you want to work, what's the balance, how much overtime do I want to do, where am I getting paid, and all these things are an important part of your overall health, and they're definitely a part of your mental health. So you just got to put in boundaries, and that takes a little bit of time to understand what works for you, because along with putting in the hard work, sleep and recovery are just an integral part of overall success, right? If you're tired or if you're feeling groggy, you're not going to work as well as you should. So, right, that's where the boundaries come into play, and understanding where you need to be your best self. And so understanding if I need to do less here or not do this job here, but because especially when things start opening up again, we're going to want to take every job we possibly can because we haven't worked in so long and we're just ready to go. But you still got to put in those boundaries and figure out what's best for you and what am I best at? How can I put out my best work when people haven't seen work from me in a while? This has got to be my best stuff. And so those boundaries are important, I think.
I agree. I mean, very early in my photography career as a self-employed photographer, my biggest mistake was being available 24/7. And you'd get an email at 11 o'clock at night, and you'd be worried that if you waited until the morning to reply to it, they'd go somewhere else. And it isn't the case. And I remember I remember having a very long chat with a very successful photographer in America who said, "Well, I shoot 2 days a week, and if people can't make the other days, then they're going to have to try and make the days that I can make, because I have to have my work-life balance."
Exactly. And you got to stick to it. And it's really hard, because you might feel like you're losing the best opportunity of all time if you're not available just for everyone all the time. But really, when you put out the kind of vibe that what you're saying is the things that work best for you are going to come to you, and it's going to work out just the way it should.
Wonderful. Okay. Point number 5.
Just find a community, like finding a community of people that you can talk to, that you can relate to. But you just want to be able to talk to someone who knows like what's going on, and be able to feel like you're not alone in those thoughts that are creeping into your head, because you're not. Whether we're in photography or we're in track and field, we all have the same thoughts of doubt. We all have the same thoughts of I'm alone in this, but you're not. So find that community. The community is so important, right? The relationship we have with ourselves is the most important, but it does trickle down into having relationships with others, because no one really does anything great alone. And so we need that community to kind of lift us up when we're down, and be there for each other through hard times, especially, this past year. So I think that's really important.
There are certain areas of the internet which are like hostile, toxic places, particularly for community, and particularly for trying to build yourself up. They're full of people trying to knock you down. But I think what is brilliant about the internet, which is totally different from the community, early internet, late 90s, early 2000s, what's completely different now is that everything's so accessible that you have the opportunity to find what doesn't work for you, and to find the groups that do work for you. It's not a one size fit all. You can experiment with different groups, and I think that's key. Like you say, trying to find the group that lifts you up, doesn't bring you down.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a group of 40 or 30 people, right? It can be 2 or 3, right? That's what's important, right? We don't have to have like thousands of friends. Social media has taught us that we need more followers and we need more friends, but the community of 2 or 3 people that lift each other up is really the one that's the most beneficial, and the one you can be most honest with. And that honesty and that open dialogue is really the best help we can have for our mental health.
Wonderful. Okay, point number 6, penultimate point.
This is important. They're all important, really, but you have to be aware of what your body is telling you. Our mind and our body are absolutely interconnected, and sometimes we forget that our body is telling us signs that we need to take a break, or that we need to look deeper into this. So it's pretty much overall awareness, right? It's really just being aware of what's happening, being aware of our thoughts, and being aware of our body and how that's telling our mind or what we need to kind of focus on. Because when things get going again, like I said, we're going to kind of go 24/7 balls to the wall, and we're going to kind of not sleep. We're going to have too much caffeine. We're going to do all these things, and you kind of have to be aware of what your body is telling you, and be able to take that time for yourself and reset, regroup, refocus. So be aware of your body, be aware of your thoughts. That all starts with kind of being mindful. And being mindful is kind of the best way to enter into a flow state, which is the best, state a person can be in, especially as a creative. So just start being more aware. And that just, that can start with a breathing practice, that can start with meditation, that can start with yoga, moving yoga or moving meditation. Whatever kind of breathing practice you want to implement, I think is going to be really important in bringing awareness to you and being mindful. And then another way to bring awareness to yourself is to have deeper conversations with more like insightful people, which goes back to the community aspect, right? And again, people who don't agree with you on everything are going to be those really good conversations to make you more aware of things that you never might have thought of before. So those are just kind of a few things about awareness, but really be in tune with your body. If you start getting acne, or if things start to happen, like that's your body and your mind telling you something that you need to look into something a little deeper. So be aware of that.
It's not a failure on yourself. You want to go back to work hopefully when everything opens up, you want to work hard, you want to recoup everything back. But to actually listen to your body and to take a day off isn't failing. It isn't not working hard. It's just looking after yourself and readying yourself for when you can go again. My yoga app of choice is DDPY now.
Mm-hmm.
What yoga, mindfulness, and sort of therapy apps would you recommend?
So I do yoga with Adriene every single day. She has like millions of video on YouTube. They're all free. She has 30-day plans. She has one she drops every day. It's a really, 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 really good plan. And then I started a meditation about a year and a half ago via the Headspace app. Now I just kind of do it by myself, where I tend to do it while I'm walking or riding my bike. And then if you need like online counseling, BetterHelp. But there's tons of online resources. Calm is another really good app. Talkspace. But meditation and mindfulness and yoga are like really hard, right? Because for one, meditation, you're like sitting alone with your thoughts, which could be very dark, and you don't know what's going to come up. So again, you want to enter that space with a little bit of grace for yourself. If all you can do is sit with yourself while trying to breathe for 1 minute, that's a win. That's a win. And don't think that if like thoughts come in your head that aren't supposed to be there, that you're not doing meditation right. You're doing it right, right? Thoughts are going to come in. You're just having the ability to let them flow out. And so that's what the deep breathing is. You want to inhale for 4, pause at the top, exhale for 8, pause at the bottom, and you just want to kind of let your body be where it is. You want to be very present. And that's why a lot of people do it while they're cycling or they're walking, like a moving meditation, so they don't have to close their eyes as much, and there's kind of some other senses happening. But yoga with Adriene is a beautiful one. She talks about gratitude and just like cheering yourself on every day that you come to the mat, because it's a win that you made it to the mat. And so all those are really good.
The final point then, point number 7. Let's go.
Yes. This one's super hard for everyone on planet Earth, but it's something that has to be mentioned, right? Stop looking what other people are doing. That's all it is, right? We have this fear of other people's opinions. So there's a really fine line between competition and comparison, right? As creatives, we definitely want to look at what other people are doing. We get inspired by it. We're like, oh, I need to step up my game a little bit. Ooh, this is a cool way I could do something. And we get inspired by it. We get competitive by it, especially in our own community where these are our friends, right? We can get even more competitive with them, and it's all friendly. It's all to make ourselves better. But then we cross over into comparison, and we're like, ooh, there's where the doubt starts creeping in. There's where like, ooh, I'm not as good as that. I didn't reach as many people as them, right? So we really have to find that line between, okay, I'm getting inspired by them, or I'm comparing myself to them. And for me, just to say stop doing it is like the most incredibly hard thing ever. But right, you have to make that aware of yourself, right, to stop doing it, right? And so the fear of other people's opinions is hindering you. It's holding you back. The way to let that go is what we just talked about, right? It's a little mindfulness training, being aware of your thoughts, taking from negative thoughts to, is that real? Changing it to positive mind, and then getting back into no mind, and then training that confidence, training that calm, and being able to believe in yourself in really hostile, rugged environments, and stuff like that. And then on top of that, it's basically committing to your plan, committing to your vision, right? You want to know who you are. That's a self-discovery process. As a creative, we generally know that because that's kind of the art that we create. So that personal philosophy, stick to it, commit to it, and it'll lead you where you want to go. And I think those are important.
That's really cool. That's really, 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 really thorough. Thank you so much, Jaxon, for joining us. Where can people find you on the internet, my friend?
Yeah, they can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jaxon Stone. That's JoxonStone, or jacksonstone.net. But if you want more information on You Are Loved, my mental health nonprofit, just go to youarelovedlife.com, or the Twitter handle and the Instagram handle are the same. And if you have any more questions, comments, concerns, funny stories, please DM me. I'm always available to answer stuff. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Also, patreon.com/Jaxon Stone.
Oh, yeah. I got a Patreon too, kind of creating a community for people to just hang out and enjoy and be with each other. So yeah, Jaxon Stone on Patreon is cool too.
Good man. Superb. Thank you so much for joining us. Look after yourself. It's been a joy.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
All the best. And we're out. Cool. Lovely.